Vela didn't know that the creature trembling against her ankle was older than the mountain itself. She didn't know that the Alpha King had been searching for a beast like hers for 7 years, following rumors across 3 kingdoms. And she definitely didn't know that walking into that tournament arena would unravel a conspiracy that reached the highest seats of power and bind her fate to a king she'd been raised to fear. All she knew was that if she didn't win, Master Corvin would sell her to the Eastern Mines before the month ended. The proving grounds roared with thousands of voices. Vela had never seen so many wolves gathered in one place, alphas from every territory, their beasts prowling beside them like living shadows of power, massive creatures with rippling muscles and gleaming pelts, fire breathers, shadow walkers. One alpha had a beast covered in crystalline scales that caught the sunlight like shattered diamonds. And then there was Nimros. Vela glanced down at the small creature huddled against her worn boots. He was the size of a large cat, with dull gray fur that stuck out in uneven patches and eyes that were slightly too large for his face. His tail, thin and ratty, curled around her ankle like he was trying to hide. "It's okay," she whispered, crouching to run her fingers through his matted fur. "We just need to survive long enough to—" "By the gods, what is that?" The voice cut through the crowd noise like a blade. Vela looked up to find a young alpha standing 3 paces away, his lip curled in disgust. Behind him, a massive wolf beast with midnight fur growled low, its shoulders reaching the man's chest. "That's your beast?" The alpha laughed, loud and mocking. Others nearby turned to look. "Did you fish it out of a gutter?" Heat flooded Vela's cheeks. She straightened, keeping her hand on Nimros's head. "He meets the entry requirements." "Requirements?" The alpha stepped closer and his beast's growl deepened. "The tournament requires a bonded beast of proven lineage. That thing looks like something my wolf would use as a chew toy." Laughter rippled through the growing crowd. Vela felt it like physical blows, each snicker landing on years of similar humiliation. "Halric." A new voice, older, smoother. "Don't waste your time on gutter trash." The crowd parted for a silver-haired man in elaborate robes, a council medallion gleaming at his throat. Lord Varic. Everyone in Valdris knew his face, the king's chief advisor, the second most powerful man in the realm. His pale eyes swept over Vela like she was something stuck to his boot. "Who authorized this person to enter?" "I paid the entry fee." Vela forced her voice steady. "Same as everyone else. The fee ensures participation. It doesn't guarantee acceptance." Lord Varric's smile was thin, cruel. "The proving grounds are sacred. They test the bond between Alpha and Beast to determine who is worthy to serve in the King's Guard." His gaze dropped to Nimros. "That creature is an insult to the tradition." Nimros pressed harder against Vela's leg, and she felt him trembling. But beneath the trembling, she sensed something else, something she'd felt since the day he'd appeared on her doorstep 4 years ago. A thread of connection that hummed between them, warm and strange and utterly unexplainable. She'd never told anyone about that thread, about the way she could feel Nimros's emotions like echoes of her own, about the dreams they shared or the way he sometimes looked at her with eyes that seemed impossibly old despite his small form. "Remove her," Lord Varic said, waving dismissively. 2 guards moved forward. The crowd pressed closer, eager for the spectacle. Vela's heart hammered as she calculated her options. She could run, but they'd catch her. She could fight, but that would only make things worse. She stays. The words weren't loud, but they cut through the noise like thunder. Every head turned toward the royal platform. The Alpha King stood at the railing, looking down at the commotion. Vela had seen paintings of King Theron, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 30, with dark hair that fell past his collar and a face that belonged on ancient coins. all sharp angles and contained power. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch, golden amber, bright as burning honey, and fixed on her with an intensity that made her feel like prey. No, not on her, on Nimros. Your Majesty. Lord Varric's smooth demeanor flickered for just a moment. This woman's beast is clearly unfit. I'll determine what's fit for my tournament. The king's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. The entry fee was paid. She competes. Lord Varric's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, Your Majesty. The king's gaze shifted to Vela, and she felt the impact like a physical force. For a moment, something flickered in those golden eyes. Recognition? No, that was impossible. They'd never met. What's your name? He called down. Vela, Your Majesty. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. And your beast? She hesitated. She'd never spoken Nimros's name aloud to anyone. It felt private, sacred, part of that inexplicable bond between them. Nimros, she finally said. The king's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on the railing. Nimros, he repeated, almost to himself. Then, louder. Let the first trial begin. The crowd dispersed, still buzzing with whispers. Lord Varic swept away with Halric at his heels, but not before shooting Vela a look that promised this wasn't over. She knelt beside Nimros, her hands shaking. What just happened? Nimros looked up at her, and for a moment, his two large eyes seemed to hold depths she couldn't fathom. Through their bond, she felt a pulse of emotion, not fear. Anticipation. The first trial was a gauntlet. Beasts ran a course filled with obstacles, traps, and challenges designed to test speed, strength, and the bond with their masters. Alphas stood at the finish line, guiding their creatures through mental commands. Vela watched from the staging area as beast after beast charged through. A massive bear creature smashed through wooden barriers like they were paper. A serpent with scales like obsidian slithered through gaps too narrow for anything else. Halric's midnight wolf completed the course in under 3 minutes, destroying obstacles rather than avoiding them, its powerful jaws snapping through everything in its path. The crowd roared their approval, chanting Halric's name. This was what power looked like in Valdris. Brute force, dominance, everything Nimros wasn't. You're the gutter girl! Vela turned to find a young woman with copper-bright hair and a beast that looked like a fox made of living flame. Unlike the others, she wasn't sneering. Orla, the woman said, offering her hand. And this is Ember. Vela shook it cautiously. You're not going to tell me to leave? Why would I? More competition means a better showing when I win. Orla grinned. Besides, I saw Lord Varric's face when the king overruled him. Anyone who makes that old snake squirm is worth knowing. Before Vela could respond, her name was called. The walk to the starting line felt endless. Thousands of eyes bore into her, most filled with mockery. She could hear the whispers, the jokes. Someone shouted, "Don't trip over it!" And laughter swelled. Vela knelt beside Nimros at the starting gate. The course stretched before them. Walls to climb, pits to jump, columns of fire to navigate. I know you can do this, she whispered. I've felt what's inside you, Nimros. Whatever you really are, I trust you. Nimros pressed his small head against her palm. Through their bond, warmth flooded her, and something else, a wordless promise. The horn sounded. Nimros moved, and Vela's breath caught. He was still small, still gray, and still patchy-furred. But he flowed through the course like water through cracks, finding paths between obstacles that larger beasts had simply smashed through. Where the midnight wolf had used brute force, Nimros used impossible grace. He scaled the wall in 3 bounds, his claws finding holds that shouldn't exist. He leaped the pit with a twist that seemed to bend the laws of movement. When he reached the fire columns, he didn't go around. He went through. The flames parted for him. Vela gasped. At the royal platform she saw King Theron lean forward, his eyes blazing with something that looked almost like triumph. Nimros crossed the finish line, and the crowd went silent. 3 minutes, 12 seconds. Slower than Halric's wolf. But watching the way he'd moved, the way fire had yielded to him. "How did it do that?" someone demanded. "That's not natural. Disqualify it." The creature cheated somehow. Vela ran to Nimros, scooping him into her arms. His small body vibrated against her chest, and through their bond, she felt exhaustion, but also satisfaction, like a master chess player who'd just shown a single glimpse of his true skill. The time stands. The king's voice silenced the protests. She advances to the second trial. Lord Varic's face had gone pale with fury. Halric looked like he wanted to gut Nimros on the spot. But Vela barely noticed them, because the king was looking at her again with those burning golden eyes, and now she was certain of what she saw there. He knew something. About Nimros. About her. And whatever it was, it had the second most powerful man in the kingdom looking at her like she was already dead. That night, a guard came to her tent. "The king requests your presence." It wasn't a request. Vela followed the guard through the tournament grounds, past the other competitors' elaborate pavilions, toward a structure that made everything else look like children's toys. The royal command tent was practically a portable palace. Inside, King Theron stood over a table covered in maps. He'd removed his formal coat, leaving only a white linen shirt that did nothing to hide the breadth of his shoulders. When he looked up, the lamplight caught his eyes and turned them molten. "Leave us," he told the guard. The tent flap fell closed. They were alone. Vela's survival instincts screamed at her to run. This was the Alpha King. The man who'd crushed 3 rebellions in his first year of rule. Who'd executed traitors with his own hands. Who was said to be able to smell lies like other men smelled smoke. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair. When she hesitated, "Please." That single word made her pause. There was no command in it, just a simple request, offered like she had the right to refuse. She sat. "Your beast," Theron said, circling the table to lean against its edge, arms crossed. "Where did you find him?" "I didn't. He found me, 4 years ago." "Where?" "Outside the village where I grew up. Millbrook, in the Eastern Territories." Vela kept her voice steady. "He was just there one morning, sitting on my doorstep like he'd been waiting. And no one else could see him." It wasn't a question. Vela's blood chilled. "How do you know that?" "Because I've been searching for a creature like Nimros for 7 years." Theron's gaze burned into her. A guardian spirit, an ancient being that exists between worlds. They choose their bonded carefully, one every century, sometimes longer. They appear only to the one they've chosen, invisible to all others until they wish to be seen. Vela's mind reeled. That's not possible. Other people see Nimros. They saw him today. Because he allowed them to. Because you entered him in a tournament, and he needed to be visible to compete. Theron pushed off the table, moving closer. "What you call Nimros isn't a beast, Vela. He's older than this kingdom. Older than the mountains. And he chose you." "Why?" The word came out broken. "I'm no one. A servant. I have no power, no lineage." No lineage?" Something dark flickered across Theron's face. "Who were your parents?" "My mother died when I was 6. I never knew my father." "And your mother? Did she have any unusual abilities? Could she do things others couldn't?" Vela's throat tightened. She'd never told anyone about her mother, about the way animals would gather around her, calm beneath her touch, about the whispered accusations that had followed them from village to village. She could speak to creatures, Vela admitted. Not words, Just understanding. They trusted her. Beast speaker blood. Theron nodded slowly. Most believe the bloodline is extinct. The last confirmed beast speaker was thought to have died 40 years ago. Beast speakers were hunted. Vela's voice hardened with old pain. Killed for their abilities. My mother spent her life hiding. I know. Theron's expression shifted, and she was surprised to see something like compassion there. My grandmother was a beast speaker. She was attacked when my father was a child. Left for dead by someone who wanted her silenced. She survived, but she's been in hiding ever since. The world believes she died. Vela stared at him. The royal family has beast speaker blood, yes. Thin now, diluted over generations. But enough that I recognized what Nimros truly is. He stepped closer, and Vela found herself frozen, caught in the gravity of his presence. Enough that I've been searching for a guardian spirit my entire adult life. Why? Because 7 years ago, something was taken from me. Something precious. Pain cracked through his controlled exterior. And a guardian spirit is the only being that can help me find it. What was taken? Theron was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My mother's soul. The words hit Vela like ice water. How is that possible? Dark magic, the kind most people believe is legend. Theron moved to the table, his back to her. My mother wasn't killed in the border raid that took my father's life. Her body died, yes. But her soul was stolen first, ripped from her by someone who wanted the power of beast speaker royal blood. Who? That's what I need to find out. He turned back to face her. Guardian spirits can see between worlds. They can track souls, find things that are hidden from mortal eyes. Nimros could find my mother, if he's willing. If I'm willing, Vela corrected quietly. Yes. Theron's gaze held hers. I won't force you. I'm the king, and you're bound to compete in my tournament. But I won't. Why not? You've crushed rebellions, executed enemies. Why does my consent matter? Something shifted in his expression. A flash of hurt, quickly buried. Because I'm not the monster the stories make me, and because forcing a beast speaker to use her gift would poison whatever answers we found. Vela studied him, the king everyone called ruthless. The man who'd saved her from humiliation, who spoke of his mother's stolen soul with barely concealed anguish, who asked instead of commanded. What exactly are you asking me to do? Help me find who took her soul and where they've hidden it. I have objects from that night, things touched by the dark magic. He paused. In exchange, I'll pay off your contract with Corvin. All of it. And I'll give you enough gold to disappear. Start fresh anywhere you want. Vela's heart stuttered. Her contract with Corvin was crushing. 800 gold pieces, an impossible debt her mother had accrued in the last desperate year of her life, trying to buy protection that never came. Vela had been paying it off for 6 years, barely surviving the interest. Just like that? Freedom and gold? Just like that. And if I refuse? Then you compete in the tournament, win or lose on your own merit, and leave when it's over. Theron's voice was steady. No punishment. No retaliation. She wanted to believe him. That was the terrifying part, that despite everything she knew about powerful men and their pretty lies, something in her recognized truth when Theron spoke. Can I think about it? The tournament runs for 3 more days. Give me your answer before the final trial. He moved to the tent entrance, holding the flap open for her. Whatever you decide, Vela, thank you for listening. She paused beside him, close enough to catch his scent. Pine and something darker. Earthier. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. His eyes held hers. Guardian spirits choose their bonded for a reason. I've spent 7 years researching what that reason might be. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Apparently, they choose people who face down mockery and walk into fire. Vela left the tent with her mind spinning. Behind her, she heard Nimros's soft footfalls and felt his warmth against her consciousness. "What are you really?" she asked through their bond. The answer that came back wasn't words. It was an image, vast and terrible and beautiful beyond comprehension. Wings that spanned horizons, eyes that held stars, and a promise, old as stone. "When the time comes, I will show you everything." Dawn painted the tournament grounds in shades of rose and gold. Vela hadn't slept. She'd spent the night sitting outside her small tent, Nimros warm in her lap, turning the king's words over in her mind. "You're awake early." Vela looked up to find Orla approaching with 2 steaming cups. The firefox Ember trotted at her heels, leaving faint scorch marks in the grass. "Couldn't sleep." Vela accepted one of the cups gratefully. "I heard the king summoned you last night." Orla settled beside her. "Whole camp's buzzing about it. Word travels fast." "Word travels faster when Lord Varic wants it to." Orla's voice dropped. "Be careful, Vela. The counselor doesn't like being contradicted. He arranged the king's marriage contract. His niece was supposed to become queen last spring." "What happened?" "King Theron refused. Said he wouldn't bind himself without love." Orla shook her head. "Now Varric's entire power structure is wobbling, and here you come with your scruffy little beast, catching the king's attention." "It's not like that." "Maybe not yet." Orla stood. "Just watch your back. And maybe win the second trial today. Might make it harder for someone to arrange your disappearance." The second trial tested the mental bond between Alpha and Beast. Competitors entered a maze that shifted and changed, its walls rearranging constantly. Beasts ran inside while their masters stood blindfolded at the center, guiding them through mental connection alone. When Vela's turn came, she accepted the blindfold with steady hands. The silk blocked out all light, leaving her in darkness. "Begin," the announcer called. She felt Nimros enter the maze, a warm pressure at the back of her mind. Then she felt something else. The maze itself. It was like her senses expanded, flowing outward through Nimros's consciousness. She could feel the walls shifting, sense the traps before they triggered, and map the entire structure as clearly as if she were seeing it. "Left," she told Nimros. "Now up. There's a platform you can climb." She guided him not by guessing, but by knowing. 3 minutes. The maze that had taken others 10 minutes or longer. When she removed her blindfold, the crowd was silent again. But this time she saw something different in their faces. Not just mockery now. Fear. She'd shown too much. "Oi, impressive?" The king's voice carried across the grounds. "Truly impressive." Vela looked up at the royal platform. Theron was smiling, a small, private expression that felt meant only for her. Beside him, Lord Varrec's pale eyes burned. That afternoon, a servant arrived at her tent. "The king has arranged for you to have better accommodations." The new tent was larger than any room Vela had known, filled with actual furniture, a bed with furs, a table, chairs, even a copper tub already filled with steaming water. "I'm Mira," the servant said. "I've been assigned to attend you, and to protect you." "Protect me?" "Look under the cot." Vela found a leather bundle, 2 knives, a coil of rope, and a small vial of amber liquid. "Sleeping poison," Mira said. "Non-lethal, but effective. His Majesty wanted you to have options. Lord Varic has spies everywhere. Whatever he's planning, it's accelerating." The water was still warm when Nimra suddenly went rigid. "Someone's there." Vela rose from the tub silently, grabbing one of Mira's knives. She wrapped a drying cloth around herself and crept toward the rear canvas. A shadow moved outside. She struck, blade slicing through fabric, her free hand grabbing the intruder's wrist. She yanked them inside, knife at their throat, and found herself face to face with King Theron. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Vela was acutely aware of several things at once: the blade pressing against royal skin, the droplets of water sliding down her barely covered body, and the way Theron's eyes had gone dark and wide. "I come in peace," he said, voice slightly strained. Vela lowered the knife, stepping back. Her cheeks burned. "You could have used the entrance." Lord Varic has the entrance watched. His gaze remained fixed carefully on her face. "I needed to speak with you without his knowledge." "So you snuck into my tent while I was bathing?" "I didn't know you were—" He stopped, took a breath. "I apologize. I can leave and return later." "You're already here." Vela grabbed her dress, retreating behind a privacy screen. "Talk." When she emerged, dressed but still damp, he was studying Nimros with obvious fascination. "I received information tonight," Theron said. "Lord Varic is planning to have you eliminated before the final trial." Ice flooded her veins. "Eliminated?" "He fears what you represent, a beast speaker with a guardian spirit, catching the king's attention." Theron's jaw tightened. "He's spent years controlling my access to information, my alliances, and my choices. You're a variable he can't control." "So I should run?" "Running won't save you. Varic's reach extends across the kingdom." Theron leaned forward. "But competing might. If you make it to the final trial, if you show the court what Nimros truly is, you'll have protection. No one harms a guardian spirit's chosen. It's considered a curse upon your bloodline for 7 generations. You want me to reveal what he is? In front of everyone? I want you to survive." The rawness in his voice made her breath catch. "I know we barely know each other, but losing you isn't acceptable. Not to me. Not anymore." "Why?" Vela's voice came out smaller than she intended. "You have an entire kingdom. I'm just—" "You're not just anything." He rose, moving toward her. "From the moment I saw you standing in that arena, refusing to back down, I felt something. Something I've never felt before." He stopped close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "I've spent 7 years alone, Vela. Surrounded by people but utterly alone. And then you walked into my tournament with your impossible beast and your brave eyes, and for the first time in 7 years, I felt hope." He reached out, and she let him. Let his fingers brush her cheek, trail down to cup her jaw. The touch was gentle, questioning. "Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video." Vela should pull away. Every survival instinct she'd honed over years of hardship was screaming that this was dangerous, that powerful men always wanted something. But Nimros pressed against her ankle, and she felt something she'd never felt from him before: trust. "I'll compete," she said. "I'll make it to the final trial." Relief flooded Theron's face. "Thank you. But I want the truth. All of it. About your mother. About Varic." He nodded. "Tomorrow night. I'll tell you everything. You'll meet someone who can explain better than I can." "Who?" "My grandmother. The beast speaker everyone thinks is dead." He slipped out before she could respond, leaving Vela with wet hair and a racing heart. The 3rd morning brought rain. The final trial was delayed. That night, Vela followed a map through ancient tunnels carved into the mountain, emerging into a chamber lit by floating orbs of soft light. Theron stood waiting with an old woman in a wheeled chair. Despite her fragility, her eyes were sharp and bright, the same golden amber as Theron's. "So," the woman said, "you're the one my grandson has been mooning over." "Grandmother," Theron warned. "At my age, interrogation is the only entertainment left." The old woman gestured Vela closer. "Let me see this guardian spirit of yours." Nimros hopped from Vela's shoulder, sitting before the old woman with unusual formality. "Nimros," the woman breathed, tears gleaming. "You know me, don't you, old friend?" To Vela's shock, Nimros inclined his head in what could only be described as a bow. "My name is Alara," the old woman said, "and I have much to tell you." She gestured to nearby chairs. Theron helped Vela sit, his hand warm on her elbow. 40 years ago, Alara began, I discovered that someone at court was practicing soul magic, stealing pieces of people's souls to extend their own power. Before I could expose them, they struck first, killed my husband, burned my home. I survived only because my guardian spirit sacrificed himself to save me. Vela looked at Nimros with new understanding. That's why you chose me. Guardian spirits carry the memories of those who came before. When one dies, another is born, continuing the mission. Alara's eyes met Nimros's. He remembers everything. And 7 years ago? Vela asked. Pain crossed both their faces. Theron answered. The same dark mage struck again. My father was killed in battle. But my mother, I felt her soul being torn away. Lord Varic, Vela said slowly. You suspect him. He appeared at court 38 years ago, 2 years after my grandmother's attack. No one knows where he came from. Vela remembered Varic's pale eyes in the arena, not just contempt, but fear masked as disdain. He recognized me. He knew what I was before I did. Which is why he wants you dead. Theron knelt before her, taking her hands. The contact sent warmth flooding through her. You might be the one who can finally expose him, but I won't ask you to risk your life without giving you a choice. Whatever we find, you decide what to do with it. Why give me that power? Because you've earned it. Because I trust you. He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because you matter to me. More than the mission. More than revenge. She felt the thread of connection between them pulling taut. When you touched me earlier, I felt something. Did you? Yes, Alara answered. Soul recognition. It happens between people whose fates are intertwined. Magic doesn't create connections, it only reveals them. Vela looked at this king who'd been nothing like the monster she'd expected. I'll help you find the dark mage. But I have conditions. We do this together. When it's over, I'm free. And you stop kneeling and sit beside me like an equal. Something brightened in his eyes. He rose and settled into the chair beside her, shoulders touching. Tell me honestly, she said, if I'd chosen to take the gold and run, would you have let me go? Yes, I would have hated it. But your freedom isn't mine to restrict. She believed him. Before she could second-guess herself, Vela leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. Theron went still, a single suspended moment of shock. Then his hand cupped the back of her head, and he kissed her back with a desperation that stole her breath. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. It was years of loneliness pouring out of both of them, finding harbor in each other. His other hand found her waist, pulling her closer, and she went willingly, fingers tangling in his dark hair. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I've been waiting for you my whole life, he whispered. I didn't know it until I saw you, but I've been waiting. This is too fast. I know. We barely know each other. I know. And there's a dark mage trying to kill me. I know. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. But I also know that I'll spend however long it takes earning your trust, your heart, your future, if you'll let me try. And if I can't do this, if the fear wins, his thumb traced her cheekbone, then I'll let you go. It'll shatter me, but I'll let you go. Because loving you means respecting your choices, even the ones that hurt. Love. The word hung between them, heavy with promise and terror. From across the chamber, Alara cleared her throat. Nimros is staring at you both like a disapproving parent. Vela looked down. Nimros sat at their feet, two large eyes fixed on them with unmistakable judgment. A laugh bubbled up from her chest. Theron watched her with wonder, like her joy was precious. Tomorrow, she finally managed. The final trial. What happens? The beasts fight, not to death, to submission. She looked at Nimros. When the time comes, will you show them? The answer came warm with affection. When the time comes, little one, I will show them everything. The morning of the final trial dawned clear and golden, as if the sky itself wanted to witness what was coming. Vela stood at the edge of the combat arena, Nimros against her ankle. Around them, massive creatures made Nimros look like a child's forgotten toy. Halric caught her eye. Ready to watch your rat get crushed? Ready to watch you lose to a rat? His face purpled, but horns announced the king's arrival. Theron took his place on the royal platform. Even from this distance, warmth pulsed between them. Lord Varic sat beside him, silver hair gleaming. When his pale eyes found Vela, she saw it clearly now, fear beneath the contempt. He knows what I am. And he's terrified. Combat rounds proceeded with brutal efficiency. Halric's Midnight Wolf tore through opponent after opponent. Orla's Firefox made it to the semifinals before falling to a stone-skinned creature. Win this thing, gutter girl, Orla said afterward. When Vela's name was called, her opponent was a woman named Sarah, with a serpent 10 times Nimros's size. This will be quick, Sarah said. I'll try to make it painless. Not yet, Nimros told her. Let them underestimate us. The horn sounded. The serpent struck and closed its jaws on empty air. Nimros flowed around attacks like smoke through fingers, nipping at vulnerable spots, never staying in one place. The serpent grew frustrated. Nimros exploited each mistake. Finally, the serpent collapsed. Nimros sat on its head, looking bored. 2 more rounds, 2 more impossible victories. The crowd's mockery transformed into uneasy whispers. Then came the finals. Vela versus Halric. When my wolf tears your beast apart, Halric snarled, the king will finally see what a waste of attention you've been. You talk a lot for someone about to lose. Kill it. Slowly. The horn sounded. The Midnight Wolf charged. A blur of black death. But this time, Nimros didn't dodge. He stood his ground. Are you ready? Yes. Then watch. The wolf's jaws closed on Nimros, and light exploded across the arena. Vela stumbled backward, shielding her eyes. Through their bond, she felt Nimros changing, unfolding, and becoming something that had always been hidden beneath that small gray form. Gasps and screams erupted from the crowd. When the light faded, the Midnight Wolf lay whimpering before a creature that hadn't existed moments before. Nimros stood 15 feet tall at the shoulder. His gray fur had transformed into scales that shimmered between silver and starlight, constantly shifting like the surface of deep water. Massive wings stretched from his back, spanning the width of the arena, each feather edged in pale fire that flickered without burning. His eyes, those 2 large eyes she'd always thought strange, now blazed with ancient light, holding depths that contained galaxies and the memory of ages long past. He was beautiful, terrifying, impossible, and he was hers. The crowd had gone silent, not the mocking silence of before. This was the silence of witnesses to something divine. Some fell to their knees, others wept openly. Guardian spirit, someone breathed. By the gods, it's a guardian spirit. Nimros lowered his great head toward the cowering wolf, and his voice rolled across the arena like thunder wrapped in silk, carrying the weight of centuries. Yield. The wolf flattened itself in absolute submission. Vela walked forward on shaking legs. Through their bond, she felt his vast consciousness, older than mountains, and his profound love for her. Hello, little one, he said. Surprised? She laughed, tears streaming. You could say that. On the platform, Theron had risen, expression holding wonder and joy. But beside him, Lord Varic's face had gone chalk white. The rules say the last beast standing wins, Theron announced. We have a winner. The crowd erupted, but Vela watched Varic, watched calculation transform into desperation. He's going to move. She was right. Varic's hand shot to an amulet beneath his robes. Dark energy crackled. If I can't control this kingdom, he snarled, I'll burn it to ash. The amulet pulsed with sickly purple light, and souls poured forth. Hundreds of translucent figures streaming like smoke, faces twisted in agony. Stolen souls, decades of victims. Among them, Vela saw a woman with Theron's eyes, reaching toward her son. Mother, Theron breathed. Varic laughed, the sound edged with madness. 40 years of harvesting, and you think one beast speaker can stop me? He channeled the soul's power into destruction. The world fractured into chaos. Dark energy erupted from Varic in waves, tearing through the royal platform like claws through silk. Guards flew backward, their bodies crumpling against stone walls. Nobles screamed and fled in every direction, trampling each other in their desperation to escape. The stolen souls wailed as their essence was consumed to fuel his assault, their spectral forms twisting in agony. But Theron didn't run. He stood firm against the onslaught, his thin beast-speaker blood flaring to life, creating a fragile shield of golden light around himself. It wouldn't hold long. Already, Vela could see cracks forming, dark tendrils of Varic's magic eating away at the edges. Nimros, she said, we have to stop him. The guardian spirit's vast consciousness wrapped around hers. This will require everything we have. The bond will be tested to its very limits. You may feel pain unlike anything you've experienced. I don't care. Save them. Then hold on to me, little one, and don't let go. Nimros launched into the sky, his wings scattering starlight across the arena like 1,000 falling stars. Vela felt their bond stretch and strengthen, becoming a conduit for power so immense it made her gasp. Energy flooded through her, ancient and terrible and beautiful. She could see everything now. The dark magic flowing through Varic like poison through veins. The chains binding the stolen souls to his amulet, chains forged from decades of suffering and stolen life. And the weak points in his defenses, the cracks where 40 years of corruption had left him hollow despite all his power. There, she told Nimros, the amulet is the anchor. Destroy it, and the souls go free. Nimros dove. Varic hurled dark energy at him. It struck Nimros's scales and shattered, but the impact reverberated through their bond, and Vela screamed as agony lanced through her. Vela, Theron's voice, desperate with fear. I'm fine. Keep shielding. Nimros circled, gathering light between his jaws until it rivaled the sun. You can't stop me, Varic shrieked. I've spent 40 years preparing. I am beyond. Nimros's breath struck the amulet. Light and dark warred. Vela felt herself burning from inside, felt their bond stretch to its absolute limit. The amulet shattered. The explosion of released souls knocked Vela off her feet. She hit the ground hard, vision swimming, and every nerve ending screaming from the feedback through her bond with Nimros. But through the pain, she watched in wonder as hundreds of spectral figures spiraled upward toward the sky, finally free after decades of imprisonment. Their faces transformed as they rose, agony melting into peace, confusion giving way to understanding. Some paused to look back at the living world one last time before continuing their ascent toward whatever waited beyond. One soul, the woman with golden eyes, paused longer than the others, turning back toward her son with an expression of such profound love that Vela felt her own heart crack. Theron reached out, tears streaming down his face. Mother. The ghost smiled, radiant with love and peace and the relief of someone finally unburdened. She drifted closer, pressing a spectral hand to her son's cheek. The touch should have been cold, incorporeal, but Vela saw Theron shudder as something passed between them. Warmth, forgiveness, pride in the man he'd become, a mother's final blessing. Then she was gone, rising with the others toward whatever waited beyond, her form dissolving into light. Varic lay shriveled in the ruins of the platform, the backlash of his broken magic leaving him a withered husk. All the stolen vitality drained away, leaving behind a creature that looked ancient beyond measure. Theron stood over him. 40 years. You murdered my mother and tried to burn my kingdom. Please, Lord Varic, I sentence you to death for treason and forbidden soul magic. He drew his blade. Vela looked away. The sound was quick, final. Nimros had returned to his smaller form when Theron reached her, kneeling in the dirt, hands cupping her face. Are you hurt? I'm okay. It hurt, but I'm okay. You are magnificent. Wonder filled his eyes. My mother, she's free. Because of you. Because of Nimros. Because of both of you. He pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, Vela, completely. If you'll have me. The tournament's over. Our agreement is fulfilled. I know. You're free to go. What if I don't want to go? Hope blazed across his face. Then stay. Because you want to. Because this is worth building. Nimros pressed against her ankle. Home isn't a place, little one. It's a choice. Ask me, she said. Properly. He took her hands. Vela, you came to this tournament with nothing but courage. You saved my mother's soul, exposed a traitor, and made me believe in love again. Will you stay with me? Yes. To all of it. He kissed her right there in the ruins, with the crowd watching and Nimros making disapproving sounds, and none of it mattering. The tournament rules. Alara's voice rang out as she wheeled herself through the wreckage. State that the winner earns a place in the King's Guard. I don't recall anything about who the winner can marry. Besides, Orla called, anyone bonded with a guardian spirit isn't nobody. That makes her the most important person here besides the king. Laughter rippled through the gathered witnesses. Genuine this time. Theron pulled Vela close. Welcome home. For the first time in her life, the word didn't feel like a fairy tale. 3 months later, on the anniversary of her mother's death, Vela stood in the castle's great hall and became queen. The ceremony was smaller than tradition demanded. No foreign dignitaries or elaborate pageantry. Just the people who mattered. Orla stood as her witness. Ember curled at her feet, leaving faint scorch marks on the ancient stones. Alara watched from her wheeled chair, tears streaming freely down weathered cheeks. Mira held a velvet cushion bearing the crown, and Theron stood before her, dressed in ceremonial black, looking at her like she'd hung every star in the sky. Do you, Vela of Millbrook, choose this bond freely? The officiant asked, not from obligation or duty, but from your own heart. I do. And do you, Theron of House Valdris, accept this bond knowing it binds your soul as surely as your crown? I do. Gladly. Completely. Then by the ancient laws of beast and blood, I declare you bonded, soul to soul, heart to heart, from this moment until the stars grow cold. The crown settled on her head, lighter than she'd expected. Theron's hands framed her face, and when he kissed her, the hall erupted in cheers that shook the rafters. Through the noise, Nimros's voice came warm with contentment. Well done, little one. I knew you were worth waiting for. Centuries? She asked. Give or take a few decades. He sent her a feeling like a smile. But you were always coming. I just had to be patient. That night, tangled together in silk sheets, Vela traced patterns on his chest. Tell me something I don't know, he said. The first night in the arena, part of me wanted to run, because I didn't believe I deserved something good. And now? Now I'm starting to believe. Your turn. The moment Nimros revealed his true form, I wasn't watching him. I was watching you. The look on your face. Wonder and love and absolute acceptance. That's when I knew I'd spend my life trying to be worthy of you. You already are. She kissed him softly. I love you. I love you too. My brave, impossible queen. Outside, a servant girl paused in her sweeping to look up at the royal chambers. She remembered the tournament, the mockery, the impossible victory. That's your beast? They'd laughed. Now the whole kingdom knew the truth. A guardian spirit had chosen a servant girl, a king had chosen love, and hundreds of stolen souls finally rested in peace. Back in the chamber, Vela woke in the deep hours of night. Theron's arm wrapped around her waist like he was afraid she'd disappear. Thank you, she whispered to Nimros. For what, little one? Choosing me. Waiting for me. I didn't show you anything, Vela. I just helped you see what was always there. She smiled, settling against Theron's warmth. Outside, dawn painted the horizon. They'd mocked her beast, called him a gutter rat, laughed at the idea that something so small could matter. Then he'd revealed his true form, and everything changed. Fair trade, Vela thought. The best things usually are. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.